So in this video, we're going to talk about the biological determination of sex. Now, a couple terms I want to put out there for everybody is gender role. Now, this is a societal set of behaviors, and these would be behaviors that are appropriate, quote unquote, based on what society says is appropriate. And then also gender identity. This is a subjective feeling of being male or female, which we could differentiate from your actual biological, what your genes and your biology state you are. So this is kind of a review maybe from your early bio classes or your early psychology courses. But we have sex cells, and if you're a female, you get XX, so you get two X's. And if you are a male, you get XY. And it's really the presence or the absence of the Y chromosome that determines the sex of the child. So your genes code, right, for your biological sex, either XX or XY, but then hormones play a role. And these prenatal hormones have two different effects. They have organizing effects and activating effects. Now, organizing effects are mostly prenatal, and they happen either before birth or shortly after birth. Besides, obviously affecting the reproductive organs, but they also include sex-specific changes that happen in the brain, and these changes and structures are permanent. Right, so the development and maturation of the genitalia, or the increase in stature, or the increase in sexual behavior as you hit puberty, these were all organizing effects. Now, activating effects, these can occur anytime in life. Interestingly enough, about these are reversible if a hormone is removed. So if you take a hormone away, or if there's not enough hormone, these are actually reversible. Examples are breast development, areas of body fat for fat deposits. It basically changes for males and females depending if you're a male or female. Muscle and hair growth, again, that's sex differentiated. And also sexual interest and intimacy is also part of the activating effects of hormones. Hormones definitely also play a role in our biological determination. For example, testosterone is aromatized to estradiol, and estradiol actually determines the male brain. It actually, I should say, defeminizes the male brain, and it'll increase male typical behaviors. You'll see a lot of these in male rats. So again, these changes, right? These male changes, this defeminization of the male brain is basically linked to testosterone being converted into estradiol in the neurons through this aromatization process. Interestingly enough, estradiol also, well, we used to think that it was the absence of testosterone, but we now know that estradiol feminizes the female brain. If there's estrogen that is low, then usually you'll see a reduction of sexual interest, and they'll be less receptive to males if there is low levels of estrogen. Now, in a landmark study, we can actually look at these changes in the brain, and we know Eleanor Maccoby and Carl Jacqueline, they reviewed over 2,000 studies, and this is back in 1974, and they concluded that girls have a greater verbal ability, with some caveats. Boys excel in visual spatial ability, so especially when it comes to mental rotation. Boys also excel in mathematics, and boys are generally more aggressive. So again, we see some gender-related behavioral and cognitive differences, and there's some caveats in there, but between males and females. The one caveat I want to mention is for the most part, we see a great overlap between male and female brains, And really these differences are task specific. So if there's a certain specific task, then you'll see the differences. Like for example, males, as I said, exceed at mental rotation of three-dimensional objects, but they have they're a little bit less on other spatial tasks. And if we talk about object rotation from memory, females are usually are better at that. And we'll get into a little more details when we talk about more about cognition. We also see that a change in testosterone or estrogen levels can change in behaviors. So again, changing hormone levels affects sex-specific behaviors, and we see this in individuals who are transgender, and you'll see that when they take the opposite sex hormone, they become more proficient in that sexist behavior. There's also, by the way, a difference between the sexes in pain tolerance, stress reaction, and susceptibility to various psychological disorders. There is also something called 46XY or intersex, and this is when an individual has an X and a Y chromosome, so their biology is male. However, there's some kind of incomplete, so the chromosomes are XY male, but there's some kind of incomplete masculization process, so they have ambiguous or female genitalia. So again, they have the typical number of chromosomes, but their sexual development is atypical. And DHT, which masculinizes the external genitalia before birth, there's a deficiency in this. So the deficiency results in a feminized external structures, right? There's also something called, so that's one reason. The other thing that might happen is called androgen insensitivity syndrome. And this is a genetic absence of androgen receptors. And again, this absence of androgen receptors feminize the external structures. There's also 46XX, which is 46XX intersect. And this is, you have the genetics for being female, so you have XX. However, right, you might have what we call congenital adrenal hyphasia, or CAH. And basically what happens is the adrenal glands produce large amounts of prenatal androgen, and this actually results in the maximization of the external genitalia. So you have a mismatch between what your genes are coded for and what you're presenting structurally. And again, they have some treatments are being developed to help this when fetal development, if they catch it early.